The card felt like a slap across my face. $10 and a glittery, "Get well soon" message. 3 years after the accident that shattered my spine. My sister Lena beamed at me from across her graduation party, champagne glass sparkling in her manicured hand, like she'd just handed me the keys to a Ferrari. My name is Reese, and I'm the family disappointment, the one who peaked in high school, as they love to whisper when they think I can't hear them. I gripped my cane tighter, forcing a smile that probably looked more like a grimace. Thanks, Lena. It's thoughtful. I know, right? She squealed, pulling me into an awkward hug that nearly knocked me off balance. I saw it and thought of you immediately. I mean, you're still doing that therapy thing, aren't you? That therapy thing. Like learning to walk again was a hobby I'd picked up, like knitting or yoga. Yeah, still doing that therapy thing, I muttered, watching our parents work the room. Mom, Celeste, to her society friends, was showing off Lena's portfolio to anyone who'd look. Dad stood near the bar, probably discussing investment opportunities with Bryce's father. The Ray family had deep pockets and deeper connections in the art world. "Reese, honey." Mom's voice carried across the room like a wind chime made of fake crystal. "Come join us. Mr. Ray wants to hear about your progress." I limped over, each step a reminder of the night that changed everything. The screech of tires, the crunch of metal, the sterile hospital walls that became my home for months. But it wasn't the accident that broke me. It was what came after. "She's doing so well," Mom gushed, her hand hovering near my shoulder but never quite touching it. "Though, of course, we're just grateful she survived. Unlike Lena's talent, some things can't be fully restored." Mr. Ray nodded sympathetically, but his eyes had already drifted back to Lena's paintings. I didn't blame him. My sister's work was genuinely good. It should be, considering how much of my settlement money went into perfecting it. "Excuse me," I said, retreating to the bathroom. I needed a moment to breathe, to remember why I was here, playing the role of the grateful invalid sister. The bathroom mirror showed me what they saw. A 24-year-old has been in a dress chosen to hide my scars, hair styled to draw attention from the slight tremor in my hands. But they didn't see what was behind my eyes. They had no idea what I'd discovered last week during my therapy session with Miles. A knock at the door startled me. "Reese." It was Lena. "The photographers want family photos. Mom says to bring your other cane. You know, the pretty one." The pretty one? The one with the pearl inlay that matched Mom's necklace collection. Because heaven forbid their broken daughter ruin the aesthetic with a functional medical device. "Coming," I called out, switching canes with practiced efficiency. I caught my reflection again and straightened my spine, ignoring the familiar ache. They thought the accident had taught me my place. Beneath Lena, beneath their expectations, beneath their concern. Back in the party, I took my position slightly behind Lena, as instructed. Mom adjusted my stance to hide the cane behind Dad's leg. The photographer counted down. "Smile," I did. I smiled wider than anyone, thinking about the USB drive in my purse, the one with the recorded conversation that would turn their perfect little world upside down, the one that proved they'd stolen my future to fund Lena's dreams. "Perfect shot," the photographer declared. "The love in this family really shines through." Lena hugged me again, this time pressing the card back into my hand. "Don't forget your gift, sis. I know it's not much, but it's the thought that counts, right?" I tucked the card into my purse, right next to the USB drive. Right. The thought counts for everything. They all thought I'd never walk again. The doctors had said as much in those first dark days after the accident, but what no one realized was that, while my body was learning to stand, my mind was already running through every detail, every conversation, every bank statement I'd finally gotten my hands on. I watched Lena float through her party, the golden child, the artist, the worthy investment. She had no idea she was about to become my masterpiece. They all were. "More champagne?" a waiter offered. I shook my head. "I need to stay sharp. Tonight's just getting started." 1 week before Lena's party, I was lying face down on Miles's therapy table, trying not to scream as he worked on my lower back muscles. "You're tenser than usual," he said, his fingers finding another knot. "Something on your mind?" I turned my head to the side, watching rain streak down the window. "Just family stuff. My sister's graduation party is next week." His hands paused for a fraction of a second. "Ah, the artist's sister." "The perfect one, yeah." I winced as he hit a particularly sore spot. "The one worth investing in." Miles was quiet for a long moment, the kind of quiet that feels heavy with unspoken words. Finally, he stepped back. "Sit up for a minute, Reese. We need to talk." My stomach dropped. In 2 years of therapy, he'd never interrupted a session like this. I struggled into a sitting position, pulling the medical sheet around me. "What's wrong?" He grabbed his phone from his desk, fingers tapping rapidly. "A few weeks ago, your parents came in to discuss your insurance coverage. They thought they were alone in the hallway, but—" He held up the phone. "I record all conversations related to patient care. It's policy. But what I heard, it wasn't about care at all." My heart started pounding. "Play it." "Reese, are you sure you—" "Play it." He pressed play. At first, there was just rustling. Then my mother's voice came through clearly. "Edward, she doesn't need to know the details. The settlement was in her name, yes, but she was barely conscious when we made the decision." My father's laugh, cold as winter rain. "Besides, what's she going to do with that kind of money? Waste it on more therapy. Lena's education is an investment in the future. Reese peaked in high school anyway. She'll never find out," Mom added. "And even if she did, she should be grateful. We're saving the better daughter." The recording ended. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely grip the table. "I'm sorry," Miles said softly. "I've been trying to figure out how to tell you. It's why I pushed so hard to get you approved for the sliding scale program." "How much?" My voice sounded strange, distant. "How much did they take? From what I overheard, the settlement was close to $2 million. The room spun. $2 million. My future. My independence. My chance at a normal life. All of it handed to Lena on a silver platter. "I should report them," Miles continued. "This is fraud, Reese. It's criminal." I shook my head, an idea forming. "No. Not yet. Can you send me that recording?" He hesitated. "What are you planning?" "Justice." I met his eyes. "They think I'm stupid, helpless. They think I should be grateful for their scraps, but they forgot something important." "What's that?" "I was pre-law before the accident, before they decided I wasn't worth the investment." I held out my hand for his phone. "Send me the file. Please." Miles ran a hand through his hair, conflict clear on his face. "This could get ugly, Reese. Family stuff always does. They stopped being family the moment they decided to sacrifice me for Lena." I laughed, but it came out more like a sob. You know what the worst part is? They're throwing her this massive graduation party next week. Hired photographers, art world bigwigs, the whole 9 yards. And yesterday, she handed me a get-well card with $10 in it. $10, Miles. He stared at me for a long moment, then picked up his phone. I watched him transfer the file. Whatever you're planning, he said. Just remember, revenge might feel good in the moment, but it won't heal what they broke. My phone buzzed with the incoming file. No, I agreed, but it might prevent them from breaking anyone else. I slid off the table, reaching for my clothes. They think I'm still that helpless girl in the hospital bed, the one they could rob blind because she trusted them. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Want to skip the rest of today's session? I shook my head, already pulling my shirt back on. No. I need to be stronger than ever for what's coming. Besides, I smiled, and it felt like baring teeth. I wouldn't want to waste any more of their precious money on unnecessary therapy. Miles nodded, understanding darkening his eyes. Same time next week, then. And Reese? He caught my arm as I turned to leave. Whatever happens, you have people in your corner. Don't forget that. I patted my phone, feeling the weight of the recording like a loaded gun. I won't. And Miles, thank you for being one of the good ones. Holy shit, Savannah whispered, staring at her laptop screen. Holy shit. We were sitting in her tiny apartment, surrounded by bank statements and legal documents I'd managed to gather. Reese, they didn't just take your settlement. They laundered it. I leaned forward, my cane clattering to the floor. What do you mean? Look. She turned the screen toward me, pointing at a series of transactions. They moved the money through 5 different accounts before it landed in Lena's trust fund. They were trying to hide the paper trail. My stomach churned. Can you trace it all? Already did. Savannah's fingers flew across the keyboard. $2 million, broken into smaller amounts, transferred through shell accounts, then magically appearing as family contributions to Lena's education and art career. She looked up at me, her dark eyes blazing. Your parents knew exactly what they were doing. This wasn't a desperate decision. It was calculated theft. I reached for the bottle of wine we'd opened hours ago, but my hands were shaking too badly to pour. Savannah did it for me. There's more, she said, her voice gentler now. I found the original settlement letter. It was sent to your parents' house while you were still in the hospital. Let me see it. She handed me a printed copy. The letter was dated 3 years ago, addressed to me, detailing the full settlement amount and my rights as the recipient. I should have seen this letter. I should have known. I was still on heavy pain meds, I said, the words tasting bitter. They must have signed everything while I was out of it. I remember Mom saying something about handling the paperwork, but I trusted them. I fucking trusted them. We can burn them for this, Savannah said, closing her laptop. 1 email to the right people and their whole house of cards comes down. I took a long drink of wine. It's not that simple. Lena's got these patrons now, the Ray family. They're funding her first solo exhibition. If I expose this, I'm not just ruining my parents. I'm destroying her career, too. And that's stopping you because... I stopped, realizing I didn't have a good answer. She's still my sister. Savannah stood up, pacing the small living room. Your sister who gave you $10 and a get-well card 3 years after they stole your future? Your sister who's been living off your pain? That sister? When you put it that way. Let me show you something else. She grabbed her phone, pulled up Instagram. This is from Lena's account last week. The photo showed Lena in her studio, surrounded by expensive art supplies. The caption read, "So blessed to have a family that believes in investing in dreams. Some people wait for handouts, others make their own destiny. Blessed, art life, stir no excuses." The wine glass in my hand cracked. "Shit, sorry," I muttered, watching red wine seep into Savannah's carpet. "Don't apologize." She took the broken glass, handed me a paper towel. "That's what they want. You, always apologizing, always grateful for scraps. You know what I think?" "What?" "I think it's time to show them what real investment returns look like." She reopened her laptop. "Want to draft an email to Lena's exhibition sponsors? Subject line, investment risk notice?" I stared at the wine spreading across the carpet, red as blood, red as rage. "Do it!" For the next hour, we crafted the perfect email. Professional, detailed, with the audio file attached and bank records referenced. It would go to the Ray family, the gallery owners, the art critics, everyone who'd backed Lena's rising star. "When should we send it?" Savannah asked, finger hovering over the enter key. "Not yet!" I pulled myself up, leaning against the wall for support. "I want to see their faces when it happens. Schedule it for the middle of her graduation party, when everyone's there, when they think they've won." Savannah set the timer. "You're kind of scary sometimes. You know that?" I smiled, thinking of my mother's face when she realizes what's coming, of my father's carefully constructed world crumbling, of Lena's precious reputation shattering like my wine glass. "They made me this way," I said, watching the timer set. "They took everything from me and expected gratitude. Instead, they're getting consequences." "Want me to come to the party? For support?" I shook my head. "No, I need to do this alone. Besides," I added, checking my phone, "Miles will be there. They hired him to be on standby in case my condition embarrasses them." "Their mistake," Savannah said, closing her laptop with a decisive click. "They should have been more worried about their own embarrassment." I gathered my cane, my purse, my dignity. "1 week," I said. "1 week until they learn what it feels like to lose everything." The patrons' dinner felt like a dress rehearsal for tomorrow's grand finale. Mom had insisted I attend, to show family unity. I watched her arrange everyone around the table like chess pieces, Lena at the center, flanked by Bryce and his father, me tucked away in the corner where my cane wouldn't spoil the aesthetics. "More wine, dear?" Mom's smile was razor sharp as she topped off my glass. "You seem tense." "I'm fine." I checked my phone under the table. 18 hours until Savannah's email would send. Just tired from therapy. "Still with that nice young man? What's his name? Miles?" "Miles," I corrected. "And yes, he's very good at his job." Lena's laugh cut through the conversation like wind chimes. She was showing Mr. Ray her portfolio on her iPad, Bryce's hand possessively on her shoulder. "This piece is actually inspired by the concept of family sacrifice," she was saying. "How we lift each other up in times of need." I nearly choked on my wine. "Speaking of sacrifice," Mom stood, tapping her glass with a spoon. "I'd like to make a toast." The table fell silent. "To Lena, who has proven that with the right support, the right investments, dreams really do come true. Your father and I have always believed in backing excellence. My hand tightened around my fork. Dad nodded solemnly, adding, "Sometimes the hardest part of parenting is knowing where to put your resources. But looking at Lena's success, I know we made the right choice. The right choice." I excused myself to the bathroom, legs shaking as I navigated the hallway. Inside, I splashed cold water on my face and checked my phone again. The email was ready, waiting like a loaded gun. A knock startled me. "Reese?" It was Lena. "You okay? Mom's about to serve dessert." I opened the door. My sister stood there, resplendent in a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly therapy bills. "I'm fine. Just needed a minute." She tilted her head, studying me. "You know, I've been thinking. After my exhibition takes off, maybe I could help you out a bit. Financially, I mean, since you're still struggling." The audacity nearly took my breath away. "That's generous of you. Well, family helps family, right? I mean, that's what Mom and Dad always say." She touched my arm. "I know things have been hard for you since the accident, but maybe this is just, destiny. Some people are meant to soar, others to—" "To what, Lena? To crawl?" She flinched. "That's not what I meant. I just—" "Miss Lena?" One of the servers appeared. "Your father is asking for you. Something about discussing the investment schedule with Mr. Ray. Coming!" She gave me another patronizing smile. "Think about what I said, okay?" I watched her glide away, then checked my phone one last time. The email was perfect, professional, devastating, with the audio file and bank records attached. Tomorrow, during her graduation party, it would hit every inbox that mattered in her precious art world. Back at the table, Mom was serving her famous creme brulee. "Reese, darling, you missed my announcement about Lena's solo show budget. The Rays have been so generous." "Generous with the right investment," Mr. Ray added, beaming at Lena. "When we see real talent, backed by such dedicated family support, it's an easy decision." I cracked the sugary top of my dessert, watching it splinter. "Tell me, Mr. Ray, how do you verify the sources of family contributions? For tax purposes, I mean." Dad's spoon clattered against his dish. "Reese, just curious," I said innocently, "since we're discussing investments." An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Mom quickly steered the conversation back to safer waters, but I caught Dad watching me with narrowed eyes. Later, as everyone was leaving, he cornered me by the coat rack. "What was that about?" I smiled, channeling Mom's sweetness. "Just taking an interest in Lena's career. Isn't that what you always wanted? Don't play games, Reese. You're not good at them." "No?" I gathered my coat, checking my phone one final time. "Maybe I learned from the best." He grabbed my arm. "If you're planning something stupid—" "Planning? Dad, I'm barely walking. What could I possibly do?" I pulled away, enjoying the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. "But you know what they say about karma." "Is that a threat?" "Of course not." I headed for the door, my cane tapping against the hardwood. "It's just destiny. Some people are meant to soar, others to fall, right?" I left him standing there, knowing that tomorrow everything would change. They thought they'd written my story, the tragic daughter, the grateful invalid. But they forgot one crucial detail. Every great story needs a twist, and mine was coming in exactly 17 hours and 23 minutes. The graduation party was in full swing when Mom cornered me by the appetizer table. Darling, could you please use the pearl-handled cane? The photographer mentioned your medical one is distracting in the shots. I gripped my standard-issue cane tighter. Sorry, Mom. Left the pretty one at home. But I specifically reminded you. Celeste! Mr. Ray's wife interrupted, champagne in hand. The lighting for Lena's presentation is perfect. She looks absolutely angelic up there. She did. My sister stood on a small stage, surrounded by her artwork, practically glowing in a white designer dress. The countdown on my phone showed 2 hours until the email would send. Reese! Lena waved, gesturing for me to join her. Come on, we need a sister shot. I made my way through the crowd, each step measured, each smile carefully practiced. Miles caught my eye from his position near the emergency exit, where Mom had stationed him, just in case. He gave me a subtle nod. Ladies and gentlemen, Lena announced as I reached her, I want to share something special. My beloved sister has been such an inspiration. She pulled me close, her perfume suffocating. Her struggle taught me about perseverance, about never giving up on your dreams. The crowd awed. I fought the urge to vomit. In fact, she continued, I've dedicated my centerpiece to her. She unveiled a large canvas behind us. It showed a broken figure rising from darkness, reaching toward light. I call it rising from ashes, because sometimes our greatest setbacks lead to someone else's triumph. The audience burst into applause. Dad wiped away what I'm sure he thought looked like a convincing tear. Mom beamed proudly. Speech! Someone called out. Let's hear from both sisters. Lena handed me the microphone first, her smile never wavering. Go on, sis. Tell them how you feel. 1 hour and 45 minutes until the email. I paused, gripping the microphone. I'm overwhelmed by my sister's success, by how much our parents invested in her future. I looked directly at Dad. It's amazing what the right support can do. Mom's smile flickered slightly. In fact, I continued, I was just telling Mr. Ray last night how fascinating the financial aspects of art patronage are. All those transactions, all those paper trails. Dad stepped forward, but Lena grabbed the microphone back. Thank you, Reese. Always so interested in the technical details. She laughed nervously. Now, about my upcoming exhibition. I retreated to the back of the room, where Miles was waiting with a glass of water. You okay? He asked quietly. Ask me in 2 hours. Your hands are shaking. Yeah, well. I watched Lena work the crowd, saw Mom directing the photographer for another family shot. Some tremors are worth it. The next hour crawled by. I played my part, the supportive sister, the grateful daughter, the family charity case. I smiled for photos, careful to keep my cane visible despite Mom's glares. I watched Dad charm potential investors, knowing each promise he made would soon turn to ash. 30 minutes, Miles murmured as he passed by, pretending to check the emergency kit. Lena was opening graduation gifts now, exclaiming over each one with practiced delight. Oh my God! A first edition art history collection! Mom, Dad, you shouldn't have. Nothing but the best for our girl, Dad said, his voice carrying across the room. My phone buzzed. A text from Savannah. Email locked and loaded. No turning back now. You sure about this? I looked at my family. Really looked at them. Mom, orchestrating every moment like a symphony of success. Dad, networking with the single-minded focus of a shark. Lena, basking in attention she'd bought with my future. Positive, I texted back. 10 minutes, Miles whispered, passing me a glass of champagne. I raised it in Lena's direction. She waved back, radiant in her moment of triumph. The photographer captured the exchange, the successful sister and her supportive broken shadow. 5 minutes, I muttered to myself, watching the seconds tick down. Mom was gathering everyone for the final toast. Dad stood proud beside Lena, his hand on her shoulder. The Rays were already discussing future exhibitions. 1 minute. Lena tapped her glass. Everyone, I just want to say... A phone chimed, then another. And another. I took a sip of champagne, savoring the moment as the first gasp cut through the crowd. Mr. Ray's face darkened as he stared at his screen. Mom's perfectly manicured hand flew to her throat. Dad. Lena's voice shook as her own phone lit up. What's happening? I caught Miles's eye across the room. He raised his glass slightly, a ghost of a smile on his face. The symphony of notification chimes continued, and I watched my family's perfect world begin to crumble, one ping at a time. What is this? Mr. Ray's voice cut through the chiming phones like a blade. He was holding his phone out to my father, hand shaking. Edward, explain this recording. Now. Dad's face went from confused to ashen in seconds as the audio began playing from someone else's phone nearby. She'll never find out, and even if she did, she should be grateful. We're saving the better daughter. Oh, God. Mom swayed on her feet, grabbing the nearest table for support. Edward, $2 million? Mrs. Ray's voice rose sharply. You stole your disabled daughter's settlement money? The room erupted in murmurs. Phones kept pinging as the email spread, each notification like another nail in my family's coffin. This is a misunderstanding, Dad started, but Mr. Ray cut him off. The bank records are right here, Edward. Every transfer, every Shell account. He turned to Lena. Your entire career, your education, it was all funded with stolen money? Lena stood frozen on the stage, her white dress suddenly looking less angelic and more ghostly. Her phone slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. Reese. She whispered my name like a prayer. What did you do? Me? I took another sip of champagne. I just made sure everyone heard Mom and Dad's investment strategy. You recorded us? Mom's voice was barely audible. But how? Actually, I didn't. I nodded toward Miles, who was quietly filming everything on his phone. But hospital corridors have thin walls, and some people still have ethics. Bryce stepped away from Lena, his face twisted with disgust. My family's reputation. We've been sponsoring fraud. No, please. Lena reached for him. I didn't know. I swear I didn't. Save it. He jerked away from her touch. Dad, we need to make a statement. Distance ourselves from this immediately. The Rays weren't the only ones leaving. The room was emptying quickly, phones held to ears as people spread the news. I caught fragments of conversations. Entire settlement stolen. Their own daughter. Criminal investigation. This is a private family matter, Dad announced desperately to the remaining guests. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding, I said loudly, was thinking I'd never find out, or that I'd keep quiet if I did. Mom rushed toward me, tears streaking her perfect makeup. Darling, we can explain. We were trying to protect you. By stealing my future? My voice cracked. By taking the money meant for my medical care, my rehabilitation, my chance at independence? We had to make a choice, Dad said. Lena's talent was worth more than my ability to walk. I slammed my cane against the floor, the sound echoing in the nearly empty room. Worth more than your other daughter's life. Lena stumbled off the stage, mascara running down her cheeks. I would have shared, she sobbed. If I'd known, I would have... Would have what? Given me another $10 get-well card? That's not fair. Fair? I laughed, and it sounded like breaking glass. You want to talk about fair? Look at your painting. I pointed to her masterpiece, the broken figure reaching for light. You built your career on my broken body, and you didn't even realize it. Miles stepped forward, still recording. I have additional documentation, he said calmly, including the original conversations about insurance fraud, just in case anyone's thinking of trying to cover this up. Dad lunged for him, but Mr. Ray's security detail, still lingering to protect their client, stepped between them. Don't make this worse, Edward, Mr. Ray warned. The police will be very interested in this evidence. Police? Mom swayed again. No, please. You should have thought about that before you stole $2 million from your injured daughter. Mr. Ray turned to me. We'll need your statement, of course, for the investigation. I nodded, watching my family's faces as reality set in. Dad's confident mask crumbling, Mom's perfectly maintained facade breaking apart, Lena's world collapsing around her designer shoes. Reese, Lena whispered. What did you do? I met her eyes, seeing for the first time not my golden sister, but a stranger who had profited from my pain. I didn't do anything, Lena. I just showed everyone who our parents really are. Who you really are. The room was almost empty now. My family stood in the wreckage of their perfect life, surrounded by half-empty champagne glasses and the damning evidence playing from abandoned phones. Sometimes, I said, echoing Lena's earlier speech, our greatest setbacks lead to someone else's triumph. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Mom, you were right about one thing. What? She whispered. I should have used the pretty cane. This moment deserved something special. The fallout was swift and merciless. 3 days after the party, Dad's corner office was being cleared out. I watched from across the street as he carried a cardboard box to his car, his shoulders slumped in defeat. The board voted unanimously, Savannah told me over coffee. They couldn't risk the scandal. Plus, the Rays made some calls. My phone buzzed with another news alert. Local media had picked up the story. Prominent family accused of defrauding disabled daughter. Your mother's social circle is imploding too, Savannah continued, scrolling through her phone. Every charity board she sat on has asked for her resignation. The country club suspended their membership. And Lena? Exhibition. Cancelled. Art critics are calling her work built on exploitation. The Ray family released a statement distancing themselves completely. She paused. She's been trying to call you. I know. 47 missed calls and counting. As if on cue, my phone lit up with Lena's face. This time I answered. Can we meet? Her voice was raw. Please, Reese, I need to explain. I agreed to see her at a small cafe, neutral territory. She was already there when I arrived, hunched over a cold coffee, looking nothing like the radiant artist from her graduation party. You look terrible, I said, sitting down. Yeah, well, she attempted a smile. Turns out trauma isn't as inspiring when it's happening to you. Funny how that works. Reese, I swear I didn't know about the money. She reached for my hand, but I pulled back. Mom and Dad told me they were investing in my future. They never said... Never said what? That they were stealing from their other daughter? That my rehabilitation fund paid for your art supplies? I would have stopped them. Really? I pulled out my phone, pulled up her Instagram. So, all these posts about making your own destiny and not waiting for handouts, what were those about? She flinched. I was stupid, privileged, and stupid and cruel. I finished. You were cruel, Lena. You watched me struggle every day, saw me counting pennies for therapy, and you never once questioned where your money came from. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'll pay it back, all of it. I'll sell everything. Your art. I laughed. Who's going to buy it now? Your whole career is built on stolen money and pretty lies. A waiter approached, took one look at our table, and quickly retreated. The police came to the house yesterday, Lena said quietly. Dad's lawyer says he might avoid jail time if he pays full restitution, but his career is over. Mom hasn't stopped crying. Good. How can you say that? They're our parents. No. I stood up, my cane scraping against the floor. They're your parents. They gave up being mine the moment they decided my life was worth sacrificing for your dreams. Please. She grabbed my arm. We can fix this. As a family. I looked down at her hand, at her perfectly manicured nails that probably cost more than my monthly medication. You know what the worst part is? If they had just asked me, if they had treated me like a person instead of a problem to solve, I might have helped you, because that's what family does. We can still be family, she pleaded. No, we can't, because you still don't get it. I pulled away from her grip. You're not sorry about what they did. You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry your perfect life fell apart. But you're not sorry for what happened to me. That's not true. Then why did you never ask? All those years, all those achievements, why did you never once ask how I was managing, how I was paying for therapy, how I was surviving? She had no answer. My phone buzzed. Savannah, sending me a link. The story had gone national. Social media was exploding with similar stories of family betrayal, of medical fraud, of stolen futures. You should go, I told Lena. Your publicist probably wants to work on your redemption story. What about yours? She asked. Your story? I showed her my phone screen. Hundreds of messages from people sharing their own experiences, offering support, demanding justice. My story's already being told, I said, and for once, I'm the one telling it. As I left the cafe, another news alert popped up. Fraud investigation expands, multiple families under scrutiny. The headline made me smile. Sometimes karma needs a little push, and I'd given it a shove right off a cliff. My phone buzzed again. Miles this time. You okay? Getting there, I texted back. One step at a time, and for the first time since the accident, those steps felt like they were finally taking me somewhere worth going. I want to show you something, Miles said, leading me into his clinic's newly renovated wing. Remember that interview you did about medical fraud? The one that went viral? Kind of hard to forget. He pushed open a door, revealing a state-of-the-art rehabilitation room. This is what happens when people get angry enough to make change. We've had donations pouring in since your story broke. Corporate sponsors wanting to prove they're one of the good ones. I ran my hand along the gleaming equipment. How many patients can you help now? Triple our previous capacity, and all at reduced rates. He smiled. The Reese Bennett Rehabilitation Program has a nice ring to it, don't you think? You named it after me? The board insisted. You're becoming quite the icon in patient advocacy. My phone buzzed. Another message from Dad's lawyer about the restitution payments. I ignored it. Have you heard from them? Miles asked quietly. Dad took a job in another state. Mom's living with her sister. Lena. I shrugged. She's trying to rebrand herself as a conscious artist now, making work about privilege and accountability. At least she's learning, maybe. Or maybe she's just found a new angle to exploit. I tested one of the new treadmills, steadier on my feet than I'd been in years. But that's not my problem anymore. The clinic's waiting room was full when we walked through. A young woman with a walker recognized me, her eyes widening. Are you really her? The one from the story? I nodded. My parents tried to do the same thing, she said. But because of you, I knew what to look for. I knew I wasn't crazy for questioning them. Before I could respond, Savannah burst through the door, waving her tablet. You need to see this. The state legislature just passed the Bennett Protection Act. It's actually happening. Miles grabbed the tablet, reading aloud. New legislation requires strict oversight of injury settlements, with criminal penalties for family members who misappropriate funds. They're calling it the biggest reform in patient rights in decades, Savannah added, and it's spreading to other states. The young woman with the walker started crying. Thank you, she whispered. Just... thank you. I thought about Lena's painting, the broken figure reaching for light. She'd gotten it wrong. We weren't reaching for light. We were becoming it. Ms. Bennett? A nurse appeared. Your support group is ready. The meeting room was packed. Every chair filled with someone who'd found their voice because I'd found mine. As I took my place at the front, I pulled out Lena's Get Well card, my reminder of where this all began. Today, I said, holding up the card, we're going to talk about worth, not the kind that fits in an envelope, but the kind that lives in here. I touched my chest. The kind they can't steal. Heads nodded. Some people wiped tears. My family thought they could measure my value in dollars. They thought my sister's art was worth more than my healing. But look around this room. Look at what we've built from their betrayal. The door opened, and more people squeezed in. Among them, I recognized faces from the news, other families exposed in the wake of my story, other victims finding their strength. They wanted me to be grateful for scraps, I continued. Instead, I built a feast, and everyone's invited except them. Laughter mixed with applause. Someone started sharing their story, then another and another. Stories of betrayal turned to triumph, of weakness turned to power. My phone buzzed again. Lena, probably with another apology. I turned it off. After the meeting, Miles found me in the new rehab room, testing my balance on the parallel bars. Still need these? He asked. Less every day. I let go, taking a few steps unassisted. But I keep practicing, not for them, for me, and for them. He nodded toward the waiting room, where people were still sharing stories, exchanging numbers, building connections. Maybe. I smiled, remembering Mom's obsession with the pearl-handled cane, with keeping up appearances. But mostly because every step I take is a step they can't control anymore. Through the window, I could see the sunset painting the sky in shades of possibility. My legs were tired but strong, my heart full but unburdened. I'd lost a family but gained an army. Ready to go? Savannah poked her head in. The advocacy committee's waiting. I grabbed my regular cane, the medical one, the honest one, and headed for the door. You know what's funny? I said to Miles. They thought they were investing in the better daughter. Turns out they were right, just not the way they planned. Behind me, the rehabilitation room hummed with promise, filled with light that no one had to reach for, because we'd learned to create our own.